not a matter of whether or not you can make it last. Like your phone, they want you to buy a new model.
Mhm.
So that's why they don't want to make it last crazy long. They'll leave that for Brazil. Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit everything in between. I'm your host as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who is dusting off his lightsabers so he can cosplay as Boba Fett for Halloween. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's people don't know this, but Boba Fett did did have lightsabers. He just didn't use them because they would be completely unfair. So, he would win every battle, and so he wanted to play things. He wanted things to be fair, so it could be more fun. But then he wasn't really expecting to get eaten by the what is it? This Snarlack pit, or was that the creature that threw the big troll creature? I can't
No,
remember.
no, that was I'm trying to remember. So he, of course, didn't get eaten by that because he had a jetpack.
I know, but it's like because they made a whole thing and he survived and stuff like that. And I forgot that's the connection there. I watched that show, but anyway, so yeah, he has two lightsabers. And I have perfect exact replicas that I definitely didn't steal from the studio. For them, one of them is red and the other one is black, and so they're super cool.
So, yeah, you'd think he'd just have the was it the Verbero blades, which if I remember from Knights of the Old Republic, it's like the vibrating steel that's supposed to be equivalent to like this is why a metal sword can stop a lightsaber because of whatever convoluted, MacGuffin they have. But that way anyone can use a sword that can stop a lightsaber instead of just getting cleaved right in two. So
Yeah.
yeah. Knights of the Old Republic, great RPG and has a lot of stupid fun with that stuff. But all right. Yeah, it's anyways, when it comes to this time of year, it's always funny to be like watching people like literally just I have a couple friends who's like, "Yep, time to pull out the lightsabers this time around because I have this one costume that I put money into, and I might as well use these Disney like when they went to the park, they built their own lightsabers, so I might as well use them." Uh,
You may as
Other than that,
well.
they go back in the box, never to collect dust again. So yeah, just I always let them know. Just make sure to remove your batteries beforehand because you don't want those suckers exploding inside your while they're in storage because that would be a mess and really sad. So
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah, battery acid's no joke.
all right. Well then, here we got. Let's see. Now another week's gone by. You've finally gotten to really sink your teeth into the game we've been playing, Ghost of Yotei.
Yeah. So I'm about 30 hours in, so um a little more actually, but uh been able to play it a lot more. The biggest thing I can think of to say about it different from last time is that it is um that there are aspects of it that are considerably more difficult than of Tsushima. Um, the regular gameplay is pretty similar in terms of the difficulty. I do die a couple times, here and there, um, but the boss and even the duels, like some of the kind of the lesser major boss duels and stuff, are pretty comparable. I've had some that were pretty tough, but I was able to get through them. There was one for some armor that was just very tough, but I talked about that last time. But I actually finally got to, I think, one of the bosses. Um, at about after we talked last time, at about the 17-20 hour mark, somewhere in there, and I got through their first phase, and I was like, okay, that was not too bad. And then I was in the second phase, and I just got trash canned just over and over and over again. I think I only got them down to about half health, like maybe one time, and it's one of those things where I was just like, I am just getting whenever I do well, it's like purely by accident. Like I didn't quite have enough spirit, didn't really quite have enough just overall health, didn't really have enough weapons. You know, I only had the Yari and the dual sword, so I didn't have a whole lot really going for me. Um, and so I was like, well, I can usually sort of muscle my way through it, but I I wasn't able to get the timing on a lot of their attacks down. Like I just like usually it's like okay, he does this and this is the timing for it, and I got a little bit better at it, but I just was running into a complete wall, and I wasn't really making. I wasn't. I just stopped being able to move forward, and so I was like, okay, dang it. So I decided to back out of that, and I had actually not gone east like at all when we had talked. So I was only about 11 or 12 hours in, and so I'd only gone like north, like it's really literally like straight north and west, and I'm just now getting over into the area that you talked about where you kind of got to go like from the start, you go east and it kind of sneaks you through some mountainy areas, and then I kind of did a bunch of stuff in that zone. And
Uh, the Nyoro Wildlands or something like that, Wilds, which is the where the Ainu live, that little tiny small spot. Um,
yeah,
and
so
then after that is Teshio Ridge, I think.
yes,
Is that
yeah. So I've only been in Teshio Ridge for like a little while, like a couple hours, because I did a lot of stuff in the wildlands and the or yeah, or the kind of the plains area, um, and did a good chunk of that, almost all of that, and then I moved into the Ainu uh, village and did a lot of that. There's probably maybe one thing left there, and then now I'm in Teshio Ridge, and finally got some more weapons, and I was like, okay, this is what Joe was like really talking about. So I think I'm probably ready to go back and fight that other boss, um, but I have a feel, but he was really super hard, so I have a feeling that I might have to leave like all of the bosses, all of the game defining bosses for maybe pretty close to the end. And if I just still can't beat him, I'll have to just lower the difficulty. But yeah. Anyway, so other than that, it is still really good.
yeah, so since last time, I've done everything in the game except I just unlocked the last area. I won't spoil that for you or anything like that, but you clear everything that's on the map available to you, and then it unlocks a final area. Um, and it was interesting because essentially when you first start out, I think it's you have uh, your main area, which is like the grasslands, under like by your house, and then you go up in the same map, but you go up and to the right, and it's I think that one's like uh, is that the range or whatever, Tokachi range, I think it is. And that they have like a little camp in the far east, that's just like that is hinting towards the Spider and Dragon,
Mm.
the Saito brothers. And so I left that alone, but I ended up doing everything else in the first starting area. Made my way up to uh, the Taisho Ridge, and then did all the Kitsune stuff, like except for the final fight, and went over to I think it's the plains is where you're at, like the Ishikari Plains is where the Oni lives. Um,
Yeah.
and I went and did all the Oni stuff, and the Oni higher end generals are considerably more armored. Or maybe it's because at this point in the game, like my notoriety has also increased. But yeah, some of those higher enemies are noticeably tougher. So I got everything to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to pretty much storm the castle or whatever. So I'm like, all right, let me clear everything else out. And so at this point, I've collected all the songs, and so you can play the different songs to try to guide the winds to unlock if there's any Ainu pieces that you have left behind, any equipment, anything like that. So you can, vanity. It's like, they call it the vanity. So it's like the hats or the masks.
Mm.
and even some of those pillars for the different scabbards or sword kits. And you if you haven't found all the hot springs or Inari Fox Shrine, or the wolf dens, you can play to find them, or even some camps, which I hadn't used those. But each area I went to, like the camps, of foxes, like there's nothing left in the area.
Mm.
It gets a little broken with when it comes to the vanity for the cosmetic gear and the Ainu pieces, because sometimes it'll say if it's empty, like this area, there's nothing left in this area. Other times it'll show you the wind, so you follow the wind, and then you wind up at the entrance to the map, and you're like, "Oh, wait, what?" And then you play the instrument again, and then sometimes it'll say like, "Yeah, not a, it's like there's nothing here," or sometimes it'll just show you the wind again
Mm.
to the entrance. I'm like, yeah, so it's kind of a little buggy, I guess, is the best way for me to put it that way.
Mm.
But yeah, because there was a countless number of times where I went ahead on my own because I waited until the very end before I started playing those instruments to hunt for the things. Because I would go all over the map just to clear out all the fog of war myself. And I've lost the count of how many times I'm like, "Oh, there is something little here." Like there was a an item to find. There was a little, I blew right by here, but there was like an instance where there was someone getting robbed, and then it led to a little mini story chain or something like that. A little quest. Um, and there was a bunch of small stuff, so that was really neat, and I appreciated that because I'm like, there is something everywhere in this map. I feel, um, so it really paid off for me just to go back. And then afterwards, I'm like, okay, the vanity stuff, like some of the spots were like, oh yeah, you just missed this gap between two rocks that you're supposed to slide in, and it's just right there. Or you went right by the thing, but you didn't turn around as you're climbing a cliff. You didn't turn around and see there was a different landing for you and the item was just right there.
Mm.
So I had an okay time just collecting the remainder of those things, and then I went ahead and took care of the kitsune. Um, Kitsune wasn't so bad. I think the Oni would have been tougher. I know the first part you're talking about. I found that one to be pretty easy,
Mm.
and then the second part, uh, I dealt with him my first time through, but I also was spamming. At this point, I just started spamming equipment, your
Yeah.
quick fire gear, which you probably don't even have all the stuff yet. But I'm using them because there is certain charms attached to them, which I hadn't been using the equipment hardly at all. So there's some really nice equipment attached to like killing enemies with kunai, and then there's a charm that I had leveled up that lets you fire like additional kunai with each shot, um, and so it lets you do better crowd control. I was clearing out camps super easy, especially the kitsune ones where I had the a bow charm for the bigger bow, and I was like locking on the three different enemies at once. So I started being more aggressive, but still capable of being stealthy because I'm taking them out from a distance. And there are certain enemies that aren't. You can just see like, okay, there's not a patrol next to them, and if you quickly tag the other guys before the patrol comes. The only problem is you burn through arrows really fast that way because each time it locks onto it can lock onto one person three times, or you can up to three separate enemies, which helps when you have a heavier equipped armored person to stack three shots on them. I
Mm.
wish there was a way to control how many stacks you do though, because even if I just want to take out one person and I want it to lock on, it'll automatically stack three. And next thing I know, I'm gone three arrows. So a lot of times I'll come into a story beat where I didn't really think it was gonna lead as far as it did, and I have very little extra equipment on me. Like, I should have camped out, and made myself new arrows, made myself new, restocked on all my ammo or my sake bottles. So that's the thing is, I had to use the items for the Oni because I think I only had 1 sake bottle on me at the time or something like that.
Mm.
So it's just like, it's that powder. I had that powder, threw that out there
What is
a
yeah the
bunch.
yeah what is that
Um,
yeah, anyway?
Not Mitsubishi or something, but I forgot. It's something
Metsu,
similar.
it's like Metsubushi or Metsurashi or something weird like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like when he charged up with the red attack, I just threw the powder out, interrupted him, or I threw a kunai out to interrupt him, and that worked out really well. I didn't use, and then I think at the very end, I got some distance from him because I was getting pretty low, and I just pulled out my bow with an explosive arrow, and I just tagged him a couple times, and I'm like, "Yep, that made quick work of that one." So I was like, I feel really cheap because it's in the middle of a duel, but I'm like, "Yeah, well, you're fighting a guy without honor, and you're not uphold to the honor standard." So I'm like, "That's alright with me."
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is yeah, that I realize kind of that's kind of why I went away from it because I was like, I bet there's a lot of stuff I can go get, and then that'll make this battle a lot more manageable. And maybe I can luck my way through it a bit more. But I do think that the vanity gear and stuff in this game is a lot. I don't want to say necessarily better, but I do think it is just better, like just because it's upgraded because of the new system, and the tech is just better. But I think that in Tsushima, I don't remember getting as much as fast, and a lot of the dyes, like the the because there was a white dye and a black dye, uh, um, places for that. But I don't remember getting those until pretty late in the game. And this one, there are several. I've already found several different dye places, and I'm just getting a lot more like, oh dang, I like that armor. Oh dang, I like that armor, or that helmet, or that headband, and um, so I'm just enjoying that a lot more. It makes me want to spend my flowers and go get more flowers and stuff like that a lot more.
So the entire time I've been rocking a charm that gives me when I pick up, like, plant life or whatever, it gives me
Gives you
more
more, yeah.
to that, and then I'm also wearing the Taro armor, like, I've been wearing that almost exclusively through the entire thing.
Mhm.
Um, the At this point, I'm at, like, 100,000 mon,
Wow. Okay.
so ready to retire, you know, and yeah, so the last couple of times I'm just like, I'm just gonna buy these maps outright. I just don't care anymore, and
Mhm.
because I have literal money to burn, and there's nothing else for me to use them on really. So I'm not really squeamish about that, and I feel like that's kind of one of the, I guess, negatives is there's not a lot to spend on. The flowers are at least you can collect more than 1,000 flowers. It's like the only thing you can collect more than 1,000 of.
Hmm.
Um, so I have because I've been collecting the entire time, So I just went out and just started buying all the dice just so I stopped seeing the red dots on the maps, or like when I highlight something. There's a lot of interesting interactions when you double back as well. Uh, I just been randomly checking different spots, especially when I was doing the vanity hunt, and ended up going ahead and accidentally coming across extra dialogue or extra little scenes. So I mean, the story's nice, but it's almost too darn big. Uh, and I'm not the biggest fan of the way the maps were laid out in the Ishigari Plains and the uh what do you call it, the Teshio Ridge.
Mhm.
It made it very, like at least in the first area, it was wide open spaces. You can map out a lot of it, but then because of central features in the certain areas, like you can only map so much, and then it's really hard to get a lot of key visuals. That's another reason why by that point I'm like, I'm just gonna buy the maps whenever they come out and available. Um, but I only really like I said, I didn't use any of the shamisen songs until after I 100% cleared the map myself,
Mhm.
got rid of all the fog of war, um, because I kind of wanted to leave some surprise for myself. I'd like to come across it naturally, not just uh,
Just go find it.
yeah, yeah. It's like I I feel like I'm almost like 60 hours into this game. I think I'm at 58 right now. So, it's there's a lot, and I'm like, if it wasn't for the fact that I know that I'm at the like, or at least I'm pretty confident, um, though unlocking the new areas like Act 2. I'm like, "What? Wait?" I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." And I'm like, it has to be Act Three's like final boss battle or something like that. Yeah, I feel like that's what it's going to be. Um,
Yeah.
but
I,
anyways, it's at this point, the story is really engaging. I found because what I did is I finished the Kutsune first, and then I still had that fort in the first area, uh, like for that was dedicated to the spider and dragon. And so then I went ahead to that, which was like in a swamp area. Went in, completed that, and then that's when you meet that's when you see the big bad there. And as you're sneaking in, you can hear the dialogue of them talking, and they start talking about you. But then they bring up the reference of, because everyone the entire time has been talking about how you killed the snake. No one's talking about how I killed the kitsune, but then they finally bring it up in conversation how I took out the kitsune and to expect it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They brought up that dialogue, so I'm betting if I finished the oni first, or if I did both of them before coming here, I'm betting they'd say something about that.
Mm.
Though thematically, be a little weird because of how once you clear out the major bosses, uh, the first two, I don't count the snake really. So once you get the Oni and Kitsune, then they unlock the next area, the last area for the spider and the dragon.
Mm.
And that's a smaller map at least, and that seems to be a little more manageable. Uh, but yeah, the I think I'm gonna probably be done with this game. Probably something like 70 hours, maybe 75 if I play the same way I've been, like just exploring everything,
Mm.
which is a hell of a long time for me to stick to one game. And yeah, if it weren't for, I don't know, it is good enough to warrant my time, but at the same time, it's like it's too damn long. I feel like,
It's
but then again, but then I'm playing this the most inefficient way possible. I'm like just cruising around, and if I just went to the major locations on the map and stuff like that, instead of having to completely clear and trying to find everything on my own, then that would have been time better served. But I don't know, it was clicking the right, you know, spots in my lizard brain, being like, this is what I want to do, and I want to figure it out myself. I want to clear the map. If it had if it had like the Far Cry setup where like climb the tower, automatically you give you the area. It's just like the game would have been done a lot quicker, but it would have also killed some of that, like I wouldn't have explored the exact areas that I did. Because like I said, some areas I just accidentally skipped in the woods. Next thing I know, I come back and like, oh, there's just a little uh natural storytelling where you see like, a couple dead people bodies. You follow the line of dead bodies, and you see a dead bear, and there's a dead soldier there with a piece of equipment for you. Like, oh, that's cool. I missed that. Like, I literally rode right by here, like just a little farther off, but I didn't see it before. Or I missed the hole. There's like a hole in these rocks, and you had to spelunk just a little bit to find it. I'm like, so I found there was some achievement in that, and personally, you're like, yeah, this is fun to explore and be rewarded for that. Though I am very disappointed with all the waterfalls that they're there. There's like almost nothing behind any of the waterfalls. But
fail. Worst game of the year.
yeah. That and the fact that like when you go into the Oni castle and you have to what was that, Mad Dog Goro or whatever,
Mm.
he tells you like, yeah, there's a cave. I'm like, I found that cave already. I swam all the way to it, and it
Gosh.
wouldn't let me enter. Like it just starts like invisible walls you into it, and then you're like, I'm running out of stamina, and I found out like the best way to do it. Then I'll just go to your map triangle, like quick travel to the fastest location.
Just
You're like,
warp
okay,
out.
oh, it's just like, the screen starts getting dark when you're floating too long. It's like you're about to black out. You're like, and quick travel. Um,
Yeah.
so that it's the other thing is when you're jumping and you're trying to find. I tried more in this game to bad off timing jumps than anything else in this game, to the point where I really started hating a lot of the jumping puzzles. At first, it reminded me of something like Guild Wars when they had those jumping puzzles were more natural, like, or not blatantly obvious, which was half the fun of that game because you get there and then you get a vista, get to see the whole space. So it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. But then I realized these jumping puzzles are just slow as anything. They're pretty much just a straight line. But there's a lot of times where it's not connecting to like when I release the swing, I'm just a fraction to the left or to the right, and I fall, and then I have to start that little sequence
Yeah.
again.
So,
It happened, that little bit happened just enough where I was just starting to get really irked. I'm like, I'm just
so,
hurry up and finish this.
so I noticed that started happening when I got to the Ainu village more because there's like a jumping puzzle early in that, and ever since then, um, I noticed, I probably made like, I don't know, 200 jumps or something in this game already, but it was around that area and beyond where I think I had probably 3 or so in a 20 jump period where I would fall and I would just yell at my TV. I would yell, "Come on, game," because like I was like, you know what I was trying to do. And and most of the time the jumps and the platforming is like you just point in the direction, like the general direction that you are trying to go, and it will connect because it's like, oh, you're trying to do this. It's not really made to like platform pinpoint accuracy, but sometimes it tricks you into being lazier. At least it tricked me into being lazier, where I was like, okay, point this way. And then it goes, oh, you didn't point exactly the right place. And I'm like, ah, come on. And then I like actually look at what I'm doing and I go, okay. And it connects because it's not really hard or anything. It's just weird sometimes. That it's not enough to be. It hasn't been enough yet to me to be irritating, but it's it's so easy that it lulls you into a sense of comfort, and then you're not quite as focused on it.
Yeah, the part that's most annoying for me is it's Sucker Punch, and Sucker Punch had a bunch of climbing and stuff from the Infamous games.
Yeah.
So the Infamous games were great because that literally like magnetized you. So you just barely jump towards a pole, whether it's like a antenna or a power line pole or something like that, a perch, and it would just magnet you to the perch. Like you could just be generally like around it and just go like just right there. Like it's a little, it cheated, but it made the game more fun and more accessible.
Mhm.
This one is just like one of the key points that really threw like it was I only it was a handful of mistakes here, but it was like a really short branch that you're supposed to, okay, you jump on top of that branch, then you jump to the next thing, to the next branch, and then you like jump either to the ledge or swing or something like that. I'm like, okay, I jumped to the first branch, I overshot it and died. I'm like, really? Okay, I went and jumped again, and just to the side, fell off, died. I'm like, "What the crap?" And then I just walked up. I walked to the ledge, just held the up arrow, and then you auto jumped to the first ledge. I'm like,
Mhm.
"Really?" And then I tried walking to the next one, and then I fell to my death. And I'm like, so then you walk to the first one, and then jump to the second branch, and, like so previous, like, Infamous games or something like that, if you had a couple of those, you would just hold up in the direction and you just auto, kinda move that way, you'd hop, to locations, um, and I just remember that just being like, "You gotta be kidding me, this is dumb," and like I said, plenty of times when you're doing the wall climbing, there's looks to be a big enough gap. So like I go hit X to jump, and then like, oh no, that's actually enough for you to just naturally climb. And if so, because of that, your person just kind of stops mid track and just like they're confused because you're pushing up, and it's like I can't jump in a straight line. You can only jump when if there's a big enough gap or if you're uh, just underneath the lip. Then you can kind of jump that final little bit. And I'm just like, I just wish he just lets you spam the jump just to hurry up because it's like it got to the point where I was being super annoyed or like I was rounding a cliff, clinging to the wall. So I held the right button, jumped, and the cliff just kind of curved just enough. And so I just jumped straight off and died. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So then I jumped, and then next I did almost the same exact thing, but then they auto corrected and grabbed on hooked. I'm like, okay, great. And then there was a branch that you're supposed to jump to. So I went and I just held the right button, jumped, and I completely missed. I'm like, there's only one direction for me to go. There's not like it's not pinpointing anything. Oh, I was getting so frustrated. And then like maybe it's the camera. Maybe I had to move the camera the right way because here I am at a different point picking out some flowers for a flower arrangement, and they're explaining that, this flower and this flower. So I picked one. All right, no problem. Went to the next thing. They're like, okay, this flower and this flower, and I'm like, okay, I'll pick flower number two. My camera is hovering right over flower number two. And so when the moment it gives me the option, I hit R2. But the R2 turned out to be over at flower number one. And so I automatically picked that. I'm like, and they're like, okay, now let's I'm like, what? No. And I went to try to restart my checkpoint or nothing. And it's like, nope. I'm like, my last actual save was a while back. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So
Same.
the checkpoint was right after I picked that second flower. And I'm like, it was completely pointless. It's a cosmetic thing. It's just a small chat, speaking point. But I'm like, God dang it. Like, you stupid game. I'm hovering above the item I want, and just because the R2 is just in the I don't know. It's just like
That's
so it was
hilarious.
but these are my point. These are my only real complaints. The game's a little too big for the maps, and then it's just like and some small jumping puzzle issues. But as a whole, it's been a lot of fun and it's been really well
Yeah,
polished.
I mean,
So
and even those things. I mean, I think that we're probably overblowing them because it's they're probably made
it's
more annoying because the rest of the game is so good. So, and even and I don't. It's not like I hate the jumping puzzle. There's just been like a couple times where it's kind of screwed me up. But I do think of the jumping puzzles or the jumping zones, the parkour zones as like a fun loading screen is pretty much what it amounts to. It's like this is a loading screen, and you can have a little bit of fun while it loads. So you know, be glad.
That's the weird part is it shouldn't need those anymore because of the way the technology is. Because that's every time I shimmy through a gap,
Yeah,
that reminds me of like PS4 era God of War or games like that. Because like Ghost, like any of these games where like you have a continuous open world, but we need to load in the next segment. So we're gonna have you slowly shimmy through a tight gap, crawl underneath something slowly, and then when you come up, the assets have been loaded. So yeah, it's silly. But the game has been, it's been a lot of fun. I'm just wondering what the completion rate of this thing is going to be because I feel like a lot of people are going to dip out before they make it like halfway because there is a lot of map to this area. Um,
I mean,
and
yeah.
what I'm doing right now is just like, you know, I think you got to pick your own personal goals and just kind of go with it. Um,
Well, I mean, y- your playstyle tends to be to do a lot more of everything and to see a lot more of everything. Um, I think that if you're pretty close to your being done with it at what you're estimating 70 hours, I mean, it's probably made to be beaten main plus sides in like 30 to 40 hours is what I would imagine that the developers are going for on normal. So most people kind of bounce after about 30 or so hours. I think that's what I would imagine. So if you do 35 hours on normal, and you can get through all the bosses and beat and like see credits, that's probably what they're going for. So
Yeah, I just quick checked on how long to beat. They have main story being 25 hours long, which
okay,
is still considerably long for main story. They say main mission plus sides is 46 and completionist is 62, which checks out because once again, I've already been so far into the game where I was like, I'm gonna clear all the fog of war. It's like that's completely on me, and I know that.
you asked for
But then
this.
again, so I think this, like this I'm about there right now at this final area. The final area isn't it's probably the second smallest area. So it's really condensed, or at least it feels that way. Unless if they spring up a new thing like, yep, surprise, you got a new spot, which I don't know, but I don't think it feels like I'm closer to the end of the game. And in fact, what I did was I kind of was rolling into a story mission and I hadn't done some of the other things I wanted to do first. So what I did was I just wanted to abandon said mission. And then when it got to that point, it just let me pick that spot back up again for the most part. So I'm like, okay. Um, I thought I read somewhere that if you do that, like with the boss battle, like the Oni battle that you're on, it might let you just report, like get back into the boss battle, or right before the boss battle instead of having to do the whole mission all over again?
Can confirm, yeah. So I abandoned the boss battle, and then I was like, I wonder, because I was a little bit out of spirit, and so I was like, let me maneuver some things and and then see if I can go back into that boss battle, and so it spits you out basically like for the Oni, it spits you out on the beach, and you have there's a fire already there, like a camp already there, and then you go back to that camp and you click on it, and it says, "Do you want to join the boss battle again?" You say yes, it doesn't warp you back into like the midpoint of the boss battle. It warps you back to the very beginning of the boss battle, but it does like you don't have to go through any other enemies or anything. It's just like you can heal up and go straight into the true beginning of the boss battle.
All right, that's nice. Yeah, the plus I use the hell out of the Odachi. The Odachi is my number one tool I use. Though because of the charms, and I highly recommend doing all the jumping puzzles first when you get a chance to collect all the major charms,
Mm.
because then you get stuck with some weird ones. Like I picked up a charm later on, like just out of order, and just happens to be like assassinate people from tall grass, and I'm like, I've done that so many times to this point, and now I still have to specifically look for that. It's now super annoying. Or I got the Kusurigama one later on, which is like break X amount of shields or stagger shield enemies with the Kusurigama. I'm like, ah, crap, man. At this point, I'm not. I'm gonna have to. If I wanted to complete it, I'd have to specifically hunt out the shield people. So whenever I do, just naturally when I'm playing the game, I will swap my weapons more often. The only other thing I think I have is a slight knock to it is I feel like the weapon changing systems between trying to quickly change your throwables from your smoke, uh, your kunais, or the powder kunais. I think there's a flashbang. Um, I think those are part. No, the flashbang might be a part of the bow system. Anyways, yeah. So
I
between
think
the
it
bow
is.
system and the throwables, those are you have to hold R1 or R2, hold R2 to get to change your throwables, and then you have to press up, down, left, or right on the D-pad to quick change. But then if you want to change your bow ammo, you have to then like hold R2 to switch from short bow, long bow, and then you have to with the D-pad. But then you have to use your face buttons, triangle, circle, square, um, X to switch ammo type. And I'm like, okay, I don't think X has ammo type. But anyways, you have to change. So because of that, it's not fluid enough, and so it takes me so much more time. Uh, and so I end up like trying to set things up beforehand. Like, okay, this is kind of what I want, but in the heat of the moment, I end up screwing up a lot of things when I try to throw, or I'll be out of ammo, and then I've gotten myself like hurt a lot just trying to like I ran out of kunai, so I'm going to try to switch to the powder, or I'm trying to switch like now I'm trying to pull out a bow. Oh, I accidentally have the wrong ammo equipped, or I'm out of ammo for this bow, so now I'm switching over, and it's just like it's not smooth. It's not intuitive in the heat of battle. Maybe if I tried using concentration for the bow, which did they ever explain how concentration for the bow works?
Um, there's only the part that I've read whenever I was clicking on it. Uh,
Yeah, I didn't realize this until like I don't know 40 because I just 40 something hours into the game, probably 50 hours almost, where I leveled up the bow max. I didn't even think about it. Just like increase your concentration, slow down the use of concentration. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I'm using that one bow charm to lock onto things, and then I'm like, oh wait, just like any other adventure game, you right thumbstick R3 the button, and then time will slow down for a little bit. I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot for not even thinking about trying this beforehand. um,
mm,
so you have the whole time slowed down, but if you R3 it while aiming, I'm like, man, I don't know. It's just like there's no tutorial. There's no like at least I didn't remember
so I
them
didn't
saying
know
anything.
that part. Like I just like that like from what I remember when I picked the concentration uh thing, it just said use concentration to slow time down, but I don't remember it saying specifically anything about R3. So maybe they don't explicitly say that, or maybe they don't put that tutorial in front of you at any point. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, unless if it is automatic and I just happen to get a really good slowdown just coincidentally because I never use it or I never really tried to. I just once again I'm using the charm that lets me cheat. Because I feel
Mm.
like it's a cheat. It's nice, but it burns through ammo real quick. 'Cause you can only have like 10 arrows for uh I think it lets you do it for all ammo types for the large bow, but you have 10 of the hardened arrows, and then you have the think that one has the explosive arrows and the disarming arrows.
Yeah.
Disarming arrows will knock them out though, like concuss them completely. So, um, at least when it's fully maxed.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I just got a charm where it lets me if I have infinite concentration while I'm jumping. So maybe it is just an automatic effect when you're playing the game that if you just aim, it automatically slows down or something. But I feel like I've hit R3 while aiming at multiple, like, I've had, like, 4 archers all aiming at me, and I can only lock onto 3, and that's been annoying, so I've hit R3 once or twice, and it's slowed down time, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." Or
Mm.
it felt like you were slowing down more. Once again, I didn't really look into it much. I felt like if there was a tutorial thing, it should have explained it, so that's why I didn't think much about it. I'll play with it more, I guess, in the ending bit because I'm using these charms as my own personal trophy list, kind of like just to-do list to try to challenge myself a little bit more. Like you have to break with the Odachi, you're supposed to break the brawler guys, the big guys, break their stagger them with that. You're supposed to use um, I believe it was the Yari, the spear, you're supposed to use that on the Kusurigama users, and you're supposed to use Kusurigama on shields. So based off all these charms, but there's also other ones where like try to use concentration and get like headshots, and so that's why I'm pretty sure the R3 is the thing that you need to do because, or at least it's not explaining concentration enough. Or there's a charm that's like it gives you more concentration or gives it makes it easier, but it literally omits headshots, and I'm like, well, that sucks. So there's a bunch of weird things that you can do, but get the charms early, lets you target and test things out, get you more comfortable. But there's almost like too many weapons to that point where like uh or at least it needs to be more streamlined. I feel because I wish there was a quicker way. Double tap up on the D-pad or something like that to switch it, or instead of once again, man, it's just the entire time of my game, the gameplay, switching between bow for short range or to equipment that you're using, their throwables, uh, has been not natural, not intuitive, and that's like opposed to the stance dancing from Ghost of Tsushima. That one was a lot more fluid for me. I felt like I was pulling that off really natural. I remember being very surprised by that. While it's more, especially since you have the Odachi, and Odachi is, um, but I'm also doing stealth kills with the Kusuri and if you can level that stealth kill up, because that way you can stealth kill with the Kusurigama from a distance, and it doesn't cost you stamina. Because when you do get it first, it does cost you stamina one, or spirit, I should say, not stamina, spirit. But then you can level up, so it doesn't cost you anything, and that's pretty nice. Um, but I'm looking at these things, trying to figure out what the plan is. And every now and then, it doesn't tell you that, but if you use the Kusurigama last to stealth kill somebody, that's what you have equipped. So in your brain, if like I specifically want to use my sword, I'm wanting to use my spear, then when you go into when things screw up and you get caught, you're in active combat, you're like, oh wait, I'm using the wrong weapon right now. um, and I've tried to switch over to uh, my Odachi in mid combat, and for some reason my Yari would be pulled out. I'm like, this doesn't
Hmm.
like, I don't know. There's enough clunkiness to that. It's not as smooth as it was in uh Tsushima. And so that's why it's like it's almost too many weapons, too many variety. But they're trying to implement more, other
So
active combat stuff. So
so the trouble that I've had with changing weapons is it not being responsive when I think that it should be. So like if I'm fighting like a let's say like a sword guy and and a Yari guy, and they're like both coming at me, like I might hit the sword guy a couple times and be on sword, and then like switch over to and then like and then go to face the Yari guy, because like he's attacking me now, so like I block, and then I need to switch over to double sword, and so and I'll think that I've pressed that button to switch over to it, but it won't switch, and I think it's because I'm trying to do it too fast when I'm like mid swing or mid block or something like that. But I feel like I have to not completely back out of combat, but make sure that I'm not swinging or blocking or doing anything
Yeah,
in
if you're
order.
in mid combo, yeah, you can't interrupt it with with a weapon change.
And I'm kind of like, yeah, I understand that I can't, cancel the attack or cancel the block. I don't really need that. What I just need is for it to remember,
To
like,
queue up action, yeah, so if you're doing
yeah,
if you're in the middle of a triple attack, triple heavy attack, then you're like, "When this is done, because 'cause I'm in, like, attack number 2 and they're starting attack 3, like, let me just auto switch to my next weapon." C and that's I've thought the same exact thing. I agree with you on that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so once again, minor complaints so far into the game, and but it's just one of those things that after playing so long, it's just like it's like a long-term relationship. You
the
realize the small little quirks start to irritate you a little bit more than they did early on.
the, the
But if
rose
those
the rose-colored glasses have dimmed a little bit.
Yeah, if those are the complaints, then that really isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah,
But the story has been a lot of fun. As far as like you go to the Oni section, you get to figure that storyline out, and you're like, okay, that's cool. It's a fun reveal. Fun reveal when you get into the Tessio Ridge of stuff. Like that. The story itself is really what keeps me going. And now that I've done everything else, I'm like, okay, great. I've overstayed my welcome. I am ready to kind of beeline my way to the end of this. I am very close to completing. I think I've done all the weapon upgrades now at this point that have been available to me. So all the major weapons, uh, and I think there's uh, some of the weapons let you go back to the masters, and once you completely leveled it up. So I think it's the Kusudagama and the Yari. If you max level those out, and the Odachi too, I think. Um, you can go back to them and they'll have one more. It's essentially a weapon skin for you or something like that, and a little story blurb. Um, but it's just the idea of you being acknowledged as like a successor or something like that makes it kind of like just personal satisfaction. Like that's right, I am the best right now, um, or I am the closest thing you have to the next head of your weapon class. So, all right, well, that's enough talking about Ghosts of Yotei. It's been like I said, it's been really fun. I'm looking forward to finishing it. I'm kind of curious because, like I said, I haven't played anything else. It's been complete dedication to this one game. Uh, you don't go full completionist like I do. So I'm curious how much more time you'll end up putting in with it, or if you'll just like beeline the story, or because I know you didn't finish all the story for the Ghost of Tsushima either, like the side stories for the main crew. And I feel like that crew was more important than a lot of these side crew are, like
oh yeah,
the bow smith, or like because they're just with you for just a shorter amount of time. I guess they don't have as much impact. So it's like, okay, cool. You're giving me the kunai, or you're cool. You're giving me smoke bombs. All right, I'm good. Do a side mission or two with you, and I'll see you later. That's it.
yeah, yeah. My general plan is to um get to get to the point where I can beeline it to the credits, and then play until I am tired of being in this game and or have to play something else, and then beeline it to the credits. Um, but because that's how I played the first one. However, I think that this one's going to be harder to do that with because the bosses are considerably harder. So I might have to make different choices, but that is the plan right now, and we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, I think a lot of you're gonna have to take some time to really customize your charm build, as it were, because some of the
Yeah.
charms make a huge difference. I recently finished the Mountain Yotei charm one, where there's each area has a specific puzzle, Yote Mountain puzzle, and uh, that one has increased like the amount of damage you can take. Um, so I just finished that up, but I hadn't used the charm at all. I mean, I specifically was it's just been in the side, but I've been up until this last zone. I went ahead and had primarily the one of the gathering charms on me, but that way, every time I went over uh, 500, like wood or 500 ore, I would go ahead and sell a batch of like, yeah, I'd get down to the 400s region, and I just constantly do that. And hence the reason why I'm like so loaded with cash now that I'm like, I might as well just focus on a proper armor build. And all my armors are all maxed up. Everything is completely kitted out. Um, so yeah, it's just one of those you need to if you primarily focused on a few things, you would not waste as much time as I did getting like completing everything.
Mm,
The game's a whole lot more streamlined, but I thoroughly have liked this game to the point where I've wanted to do these things.
yeah.
And it's I only have myself to blame. So that's the thing is I'm not blaming the game, but at the same time it's just like I felt like the fact that you could fast travel to any location you've been to before is a one of the best blessings in this game because if even if it's just like I have to go around this hill or this mountain, I'm like, okay, this rocky cliff. I'm like, just quick map. I've already been there once before,
Mm.
and that just saves you so much time. All right, guys. Let's get to. Did you want to talk about the other thing you've been playing?
Yeah, I don't have too much to say on it, but I did get a new phone, and so after I got the new phone, I was like, I want to play. I want to see how games work on it, because that's sort of the only thing the most easy thing I can readily test to kind of benchmark a new phone. So I was like, I just want to see how Genshin Impact works on this. So I fired up Genshin Impact, and then I realized slash remembered that a while ago Genshin Impact sent me an email saying, "Hey, if you don't get back into your account by this day, we're going to erase your account and we're going to basically zero out your progress." And I think I was like half a day late on getting back into that account. and so anyway, I fired it back up and I was like, why am I on the beach, which is where you start in the game? Like, why am I on the beach in this game? And then I was like, I must be in the wrong account. And I switched because I had like two different emails. And so I switched back and forth for a little while. And I was like, oh, yeah, they sent me that email. So I was like, well, F playing this ever again. So I do want to. I was like, I don't want to just go through the same thing again. So I do want to play Honkai Star Rail instead. But before I do that, I decided to play a different game, one that I kind of discovered while I was looking for a game to play. Um, but after firing it up, I remembered that we actually had seen a trailer for this game a while ago. This game is called Mecharashi. And basically, it is like a mobile suit mech um, strategy game. So if you ever play the old Front Mission games, it's kind of like that. It's been a while since I played Front Mission 4. That was the last one I played. Um, but it's somewhat similar to that, at least on the face. Um, so this is a phone game, so it's a mobile game. So it is a gotcha game. It does have gotcha mechanics in it. Um, they're not too bad yet. They are, gotcha mechanics in general are sort of annoying by their very nature. Even when they don't make you like pay for stuff, at least I find them annoying. I do think ones like Genshin Impact and Clash Royale kind of do those a little bit better. This one though, at least it's just a lot of buttons and stuff. It's like I don't really want to click on this. I don't really care to be clicking on all these, and gathering up all these types of money that you're going to try to trick me into spending. But anyway, so besides that, the story of the game is basically you're a Han Solo type ragamuffin, kind of hero. There's a sniper girl, and then there's a, uh, you know, old old man character who's probably about 32 years old. um, like he like one of the things he says is like, I still got a few good years left, and I'm like, you're like 30 years old, man. But that's just video games for you. But anyway,
He's in a profession where, the average person gets offed by 28,
yeah,
Uh,
he's like a pro. I mean, it's basically like a pro athlete. I mean, I guess a lot of like if you start what is it? Can't you like retire from like the military at like 35 if you go in at like 18 or something?
it's 20 years is the average, so if you go into 18,
It's like 38.
you're there. Yeah, that's
Okay.
20 years is a full term. I mean, there's early retirement options sometimes, stuff like that, but it's generally 20 years. And then you can collect pension from that, put that towards a federal job like postal service or something, or anything else, and you get that 20 put into your 40 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
It's a pretty good deal as long as there's no wars that you don't end up in. But yeah, anyway, so sidetracked from that. Yeah, so the story is basically, you're basically you three, and then you get bonus characters that you can like earn or buy, and so that's kind of part of the gotcha system. Um, and and then you like level up characters and stuff like that. But the story is basically like you're kind of betrayed by your main by the organization you're with, but also there's like an enemy organization, but also there's like a really cool powerful chick who is like a renegade and doesn't like you at the beginning, but then, and this is like 3 missions in, so I'm not really spoiling very much, but she doesn't like you at the very beginning, but then when you get kind of burn noticed, um then she likes you. So it, and that's really all that I know for sure about the story, except that I also can kind of tell that it's not going to be it's not going to be very good. Like it's it's like the structure of the story is probably fine. It's kind of like anything else, but the acting is pretty over the top. A lot of the dialogue is pretty over the top and silly. So I'm kind of saddened about that, because Front Mission 4, I put probably like I didn't beat it, but I put probably like 20 hours, 25 hours in that game. And I remember that game being, I was very into the story on that game. That very into the characters, very much like, dang, what is going on here? And like, I really like this guy. Like, I really like that chick. Like, I really like this character. And they had like a real mixture of like very like, because that game took place in Germany and in Colombia, so you had like a German, British, French crew, and then you had like a Colombian, Brazilian crew, and then like they like the stories like merged and they joined up. So yeah, probably not gonna get quite that much out of this game, but so far the gameplay has been pretty all right. As I said, I'm not too far into it, so I'll probably talk about this again later if I end up going very far into it. But yeah, it's it's pretty decent. It's for a phone game. It works pretty well. And it just made me think like, dang, this is actually a pretty good genre for a phone. It's kind of one click at a time strategy. Um, it has cutscenes. You can have a lot of acting and stuff in it. It can be kind of story driven, but also really make the gameplay pretty advanced. So yeah, I was like, dang, I would be like really. I mean, like honestly, what I really just want is them just to convert the old Front Mission games to the phone and just let me. I mean, I'll pay money for those. At least I'd love to get back to like Front Mission like 3 or 4 or something like that, and play those on my phone. That would be sick. But anyway, this is pretty cool so far, and I'll report back as I go further in.
Yeah, I played a lot of Front Mission 3 back in the day because that was when Squaresoft was king of the world. I mean, you
Man.
had, Final Fantasy 7, you had, Front Mission, 3, and then you had was it Parasite Eve?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Dang.
they couldn't they couldn't do no wrong. Like, that was it. So, but yeah, that's it was one of the things that it just dawned on me. I'm like, since you're talking about, get the whole gotcha system in this current game, and randomly, the concept of gotcha and as a whole, I'm like, okay, um, like you know what? If we instead of doing the all our sports drafts, we should just take all the pool of players and then just do a gotcha system with them. And then just see random, like, all sports, so it's like, "You want baseball? Okay, let's see who the Yankees get," if they're gonna get, like, a top tier or bottom tier person, someone fresh out of college or someone's just, high school level equivalent,
And then
Uh,
from there you do okay, you can draft this running back, but they can only carry the ball in their left hand, left arm. They can't switch the ball until mid-season if you can afford that these like NFL shields.
but that's like if give them like based on their whatever previous ratings or their first season rate, like stats, and be like, okay, you could trade two D rank, players up for it to it like in for a C rank person,
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, that'd be a wild way to change up the sporting, instead of like, yeah, who has the most money? Who has like, you can afford everyone, just like just make it stat based. Okay, you're guaranteed. Here's your pool, but you need to pay X amount of price, but you don't know which A or S tier person you're gonna get. Athlete, good luck on that. You
Yeah.
know, you pick somebody. Oh wait, they just suffered an injury. Too bad. They were already in the pool. You know, but yeah. All right. Yeah. Let me know how that game goes out for you. So did you go with the Apple or Android this time around?
I went with Apple. I'm
Okay.
I'm locked into the ecosystem. There's no escape. There's no escape for me.
Well, good luck on that. Hey, at least the cameras are really nice. So
It's
that's the
it's
only reason I upgrade phones nowadays for me is like, I just need a better camera.
that was there's a guy at work who happened to mention that his phone was 5 years old, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was just like, I felt more embarrassed for myself because I was like, I should probably be that way. I should probably just say F it and just not upgrade my phone because it doesn't matter. I mean, more and more people are like, there's not really a reason to upgrade. And if you're like a tech person and you really want to play top of the line games or whatever on max settings and all that stuff and do a bunch of dumb stuff on your phone, then yeah. But otherwise, if you're really just using it for surfing the internet, scrolling Instagram or whatever, and texting, that's like almost like a 10-year-old phone is probably enough for you.
Yeah, the reason I would recommend keeping anything 2000 or higher or newer only for anything that's current whatever 5G equivalent is right now,
Yeah.
because that's the only reason why I upgraded mine. My previous phone was really nice, but it was the tail end of the 4G, and when I was with a buddy who had uh, a cheaper 5G phone, we were in Vegas and we were in one of the hotels. He was getting better reception than I was, and so I'm like, all right, this is convincing me to upgrade. And then between that and getting the nicer camera set up with that, so mine's a 2021 and I'm perfectly fine with it. It's all paid for, so it doesn't really matter. And until there's a massive need for it, I'm like, the only thing is space is limited. So phone games are very limited for me, uh, because like something like any of the Honkai Star Rail or
Mhm.
Third Impact or Third Strike or something like that, whatever it is. Those are massive games, like 10 plus gigs, and that just eats up a lot of space. That and I probably should just dump my photos a little more frequently than I do. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's see. Now we have here our usual what we've been watching. Uh, Now, Nick, you kind of switched some stuff around. So what are you watching?
Yeah. Okay. So I did see Weapons, but we'll save that for next week. Um,
give me a
and
chance to watch it
yeah,
because it's been on my radar, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
yeah, I'll give you at least one more week chance to watch it. And then if I don't have anything else to talk about, then I'll talk about that then. But I decided instead to talk about a different piece of media that also starts with W. A little TV show that came out on Netflix probably this past month called Wayward. So this show, so there's kind of an elephant in the room on this show, and I'll probably talk about that toward the end, mostly because I just don't really think it's honestly all that important. But but basically, this show Wayward is named so if you think about it in terms of like, oh, like they were like a wayward teen, like they were like a wayward teenager. So basically the show centers on um it centers on quite a few different characters. So so basically the show is about a a camp um for wayward teens, for troubled teens, um where they rehabilitate them, and basically they are, you get this from the first episode and from anything you watch about it, but basically this camp is kind of a cult, and it brainwashes, it's more than kind of, it is a cult, and it brainwashes the people who go through it. So it kind of centers on two main parties, I guess. The first set is a couple of teenage girls. I think they're supposed to be playing. I mean, it doesn't really say exactly, but they're playing probably around 16, 17 years old. Um, and and the other set of characters is is a uh, a police officer, um, and his wife who is pregnant, and those two have just moved to the town, and the two teenage girls, basically, that too many spoilers, they end up at the camp, um, and so uh, it's around that time that everyone kind of gets to this town where the camp is, that the weirdness sort of starts to happen, and people start pulling on threads and seeing that things are not really quite right, with what's going on here. So so basically, yeah. So Tony Collette is uh, the basically the camp leader, basically the cult leader, um, and she was in. She's been in a couple things. Most notably for me, she was in uh, uh, Hereditary, which was really good, and she was great in that, and she's very good in this. Um, and let's see, what else is there to say on the front end. Um, so so anyway, so I've watched 7 episodes. I'm on the eighth and final episode of this season. I'm not sure if it's gonna continue or not. I kind of have a feeling that it might, um, but it has been pretty good so far. I've actually been sort of surprised at how good it is. It doesn't have great ratings, I'll say, but it doesn't have terrible ratings either. Um, yeah, so it's pretty well written. It has some good turns here and there. It has some things that are that was kind of unexpected. A lot of the unknown actors that are in it, which is quite a few, are all doing, I really, a pretty bang up job. I'm really enjoying a lot of it. Another thing to note about it is that it's set in the year 2003. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, wait, these teenagers are pretty much my age. Like, not quite exactly, but pretty close. I was like, huh, that's kind of a sort of a weird thing to think about. But Yeah, so sometimes they pull out like old tech. Like at one point, one of the characters is using a MacBook from that time period, and I was like, "Whoa, that thing is like really, really super thick," um, and it's just kind of takes you takes you out of it when you see some of the old tech they have in there. But I think they picked that time period because it's basically the last point before smartphones, more or less, like '03. I mean, obviously you had the iPhone come out in '07, but BlackBerry was making some pretty advanced phones in a couple years prior to that, which they were very expensive, so kids really wouldn't have them. Teens wouldn't really have them, but basically '03 is like pretty close to the end of that era. So I think they just wanted to get maybe like away from any kind of tech that would kind of screw up the story. Yeah, but kind of to get to like the ending part of this, um, this show was written by Mae Martin, who I am told is a comedian, which I have not seen any of his comedy, but apparently he is a successful comedian, and he is a trans man, and apparently he is the brainchild behind. This is his brainchild, and he's the main writer behind all of this, and he is starring in this as the police officer that kind of comes to the town. And yeah, overall I think it's really well written. There's probably a lot of things that could be done with a bit more money and a bit more this and a bit more that, but overall I think it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Like it's small budget, and it seems like a small budget to me. And with that small budget, if I'm right about that, is doing a lot of heavy lifting, so they're getting a lot of mileage out of it. Um, and if anything that I've said so far is up your alley, I think it's probably worth a watch. So yeah, Wayward.
Yeah, I just see him being credited for both, yeah, creator and playing the officer in the show. I also, I've never, I haven't heard of it, but then again, I don't have Netflix anymore. Uh, the none of the synopsis. I'm glad you told me at least when it takes place because that actually does define it a little bit more. Because none of the uh, multiple sites I went to have anything stating what year as far as a quick plot summary. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
pretty.
nothing talking about the year at all, which makes more sense, I guess, if you're looking at the tech being old and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at the beginning it must say 2003 because I have that date firmly planted in my mind, being like, because I'm pretty sure it says it at the beginning because I remember thinking that's a weird year to put something, but because usually stuff is in the 90s now or older. '03 is 22 years ago, so it kind of makes sense as like kind of a way back sort of time. But yeah, so that sort of stuck out to me. But yeah, I think that helps it overall. Yeah.
You can't have anything produced, especially after 2021 or whatever when they created the Apple AirTag because they're like, wait, my luggage is missing or where are the kids? Like, well, let's just follow their AirTag. Okay, we know where they are. Got them. You know.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. No, that's yeah, it's a interesting find. I'm curious how let me know how it is when you finish it and see whether or not the season was worth it in the end. Because you said you're thinking they might go on a second season. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at how much runway there is left on the show, and I'm kind of like, I think there might be a second season because it just seems like they have some things to unpack. The only other thing I'll say about it is, if I didn't already know if I didn't follow some true crime, which I'm not a big true crime head, but I do follow some true crime, like spooky stories, scary stories on YouTube. So if I didn't already do that, I probably would not like this show as much, or at least I wouldn't find it as believable. Um, but since I do, um, there's a lot of things in this show. I'll say there's two main things in this show. First is the stuff around Charles Manson. Um, if you know very much about that, then then like you'll probably know what I'm talking about when I say that the stuff around Charles Manson lends a lot of credibility to some of the therapy that they do in this show. And I'll just leave it at that. So if you don't know and you don't want to be spoiled, then don't look up like any of that stuff. But the other part is that there is, and I forget what the name of the real life school was, but there was a real life school that actually used similar techniques to some of the other aspects of therapy. Um, that and actually Charles Manson stuff did that as well. But some of the other techniques, a real life school did use some of those things, and it was pretty scary and proved to be pretty negative and ineffective, like not non-effective. Um, and there's some YouTube videos about that I watched. So when I saw that in the show, I was like, dang, somebody did their homework and kind of found some like real life stuff to draw from and kind of weave a story. I guess May, you know, figured out some stuff to draw from and weave a pretty good, fairly believable story out of. So anyway, that part I think is pretty cool.
All right, cool. Well, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and keep on talking about some new anime that came out. There's a bunch of new stuff, but there's two that just I'm gonna quick talk about that are uh, kind of on the top of my, so far the front runners on my list for this season. One is going to be, let's see here, Past the Monster Meat, Milady. This one is a, uh, this is supposed to be a magical fantasy world where everyone has gifts because all fantasy stories have to have people with powers or at least some sort of abilities. And this one isn't your usual fodder, like they've been chosen or whatever, but this one is this girl has a bad reputation because she's noted for eating monster meat, which is in this world could make you sick. It essentially gives you an upset stomach because and other issues because of the like the magic within the monster, and then certain monsters could then be oversaturated and then they go mad because of said magic intake. But she due to reasons, she knows a technique in which to drain the magic from them, making it palatable. And so she has a bad reputation for this, for being someone who eats meat that's not consumed by normal people. And she meets she's now like I forget if she's like 16 or something like that. Her stepmom's like, well, you need to go to high society. You need to find yourself a husband. If you don't find a husband within the year, you're going to a convent. So it starts with her out at a at like a lunch party or some sort of noble party, and she runs into there happens to be a hunt going on in the background, like some of the nobles, and there's a wild beast that goes out of control. Uh, and she tries to help protect a older couple that were injured, and she lures them away. And before she gets trampled, the the main love interest comes in and saves her life. But he also has a notoriety of being pretty much like vicious, or being very, he's handsome, but he's also very scary, and he, he's like quickly he beheads the monster in one swoop, but also gets himself covered in blood. And she sees him as very dashing, and they quickly hit it off. It's a cute little love story, and it's interesting to find out more about this world. It's well done. The first episode's in English, and the other two are, there's 3 episodes currently out in Japanese. I've went ahead and I've seen all 3 episodes right now, and it's going to be one that I stick to. I'm pretty sure it has a high enough quality on it, and it's yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a cute little romance, one of the season. Now, if you want something more grounded in our like world, then I'm gonna go with this rom com called A Star Brighter Than the Sun. Um, this one, 3 episodes out currently, and they're being looks like it's being dubbed like instantly. So there's 3 episodes in English as well. The English cast is pretty good. This one is just about a girl who had uh, they start off at her third year of middle school, and she happens to, talk about her old friend from grade school who they've been connected at the hip since then. But when they got to middle school, they wound up in separate classes, so they kind of drifted apart. She is tall for a Japanese girl. She is they clock her in at 5'6" at the end of the middle school, and she's been tall all through grade school. So the boy that she's always been with was always short. He was like a runt, and he but she's always liked him. She's always admired him. He has a genuinely happy smile all the time, and he's tried really hard for like playing sports, soccer and whatnot. So she likes him. Uh, it's apparent to the audience that he likes her too, but she'll have to work through that knowledge eventually. Uh, and so episode one's just a quick like an introduction to the people. They end up going to the same high school together, and they wound up in the same class. So you're like, okay. They quickly throw at the very end of the first episode a little cliffhanger of potential issues and or slash common tropes with the rom com genre, which they quickly put to end by the end of episode two. Which I'm like, oh, thank God. Okay, I don't want.
Okay.
And it's not really a spoiler too much, but it's just like, hey, you're not following the same formulaic plan. You kind of threw it in as almost a red herring. Um, the side characters, for the most part, have been pretty solid. At least the main girl, her two friends. Um, one seems like they'd be annoying, and the other one seems like they'd be a downer. Both turn out to be pretty solid.
Okay.
So I'm happy. Especially the one with the downer. It's like she's pretty much they're the funny man straight man duo is what they are. Um, it's not so much she's a downer. She's just pretty much blunt, and she's just like a realist. But and it's just she's a good foil for the overly bubbly one in her friend group. And yeah, it's they do embarrassment and awkwardness really well in this. I think when it comes to like the main girl is in front of the guy she likes, does something wrong or makes a mistake, and she just internally monologues or like she just kind of squeamishly like makes a face where she's like, I just happened to embarrass myself again, you know, or there was an issue with her clothing, and he's like, don't worry, I don't think anyone else noticed. And she's like, I would rather have internally, she's like, I'd rather have the whole world know, everyone except for you, you know. It's just like, but it happened to be he found out. So it's very cute. It's really enjoyable. Um, and yeah, so a star brighter than the sun. I'm also really looking forward to this one this season, and it's nice because once again it's uh being dubbed right away. So this one I think is being dubbed by Amazon, or it's being brought up by Amazon, which surprised me because it doesn't sound it. I haven't recognized the other voices Amazon's usually done, so I'm not sure if they're not necessarily getting the voice work done, but maybe just producing it. So I'm not
Mhm.
100% sure. Yeah, those are the two standout ones for this week. There's still a bunch that I haven't gotten around to yet. There's there looks like there's potentially some really good bangers this year, and some really big flops. So, like
Hmm.
the highs might be really high, but the lows might be really low. So, but hey, you only need a few good ones to really make it through the season. So,
Yeah, that's
uh,
probably better than a bunch of mediocre. I think I'd rather have like one or two even really good ones and the rest trash than like everything be like, this was pretty good. That was not pretty good, but still not bad. Yeah.
all right. Well, let's get to the final part. Nick, you've picked out some news for us today. So, what do you got?
Yeah, so quite a bit, not the biggest news ever, but some pretty decent stuff this week. So there was the Assassin's Creed boss Mark Alexis uh, Cote, I think is how it's pronounced. He he has stepped away from um, being on Assassin's Creed and being with Ubisoft, I think in general. Um, and Ubisoft had come out saying that he had chosen to go on and to do something else, and he came back soon after and said, "Yeah, I didn't actually really choose to do that. I think technically Ubisoft is still correct, legally, but he wanted to clarify, and he basically said that
He was voluntold
he was
to do it, right?
he was he was well. I'll just put it this way. So basically, Ubisoft has had some changes in their management structure, their organizational structure, and this Mark Alexis guy was um, he was offered a new leadership quote leadership role that was effectively a demotion, um, because they wanted to put somebody else in who fit into their new organizational structure. And he was like, "No, I don't think I want to get demoted," because he said he wasn't going to have the same level of control over the franchise or really basically anything like that. Or I think he said he wasn't going to have the same control over the franchise, and he wasn't going to have the same control, I think, over even being on Assassin's Creed. So he might have, like, if he'd taken that role, he might have actually been like moved on into something else. And so he was saying, yeah, that it's not entirely accurate that I decided to move on. They moved away from me. So I don't know. It seemed interesting because it was a little bit of controversy, and I like to keep track of things like that. Um, and so I just wanted to bring it up. But I don't know. It sounds a little bit like a normal megacorp move, to be honest. Um, I, I don't know. I wasn't all that interested in playing Assassin's Creed anyway, so I'm not really sitting here trying to defend him or anything like that. Um, I think I'll be interested to see where it goes from here now that I know that somebody else is involved. But yeah, they thought it was worth clarifying.
Yeah, I just that kind of move reminds me of when just working in retail back in the day and being like, "Hey, why don't we promote you to a full-time customer?" You know? So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
well, I mean, I feel like the last Assassin's Creed had more negative repercussions than or like, vibes than anything else. I feel like a lot of people complained about Valhalla, but the biggest complaints were it's just too darn long, but
Yeah.
it still was more or less a positive reception. Uh, but
Like,
yeah, I mean,
was because they decided to start taking breaks between Assassin's Creeds. I remember that, but how long of a break? It was Valhalla, and then a couple years, several years, and then this newest one in Japan, right?
yeah, I
Shadows.
think it was so yeah, because it all started from Assassin's Creed Origin, which is Egypt. Then they
Mhm.
did Odyssey,
I see. Yeah.
and then it went from Odyssey to Valhalla,
Right.
and then
I just
Shadows.
I just couldn't remember how long ago Valhalla was, or how long between.
I don't remember to be honest. I just know it was a while, but they also had like production issues in between as well.
Yeah.
So they had snagged some delays, and it's I can see them wanting to. That's a corporate move. Whenever something doesn't go super well, you let the manager in charge be the fall guy, and you swap them out. Have them bow out and be like, "Yep, we got someone new,"
I mean,
to hopefully get fans happy again.
yeah, you need to have a
So
sacrificial lamb for stuff like that. I do think that if they, I feel like Shadows, I think it was like at least 2 or 3 years between it. And I know they're on a schedule and a cadence and they have all kinds of, projections to meet and stuff like that. But I feel like they could have gone away for quite a long time and from after Valhalla and come out, you know, basically waited until people were like asking, "Hey, when is the next Assassin's Creed coming out? Like, we really want to play it," and then announcing that it was like Japan and like it was going to be. I feel like that would have won a lot more hearts and minds, and also probably would have made the game. They could have taken the time to make the game even bigger and better and stuff like that. But yeah, with sort of the problems, I don't know. I don't remember how well it sold, but with sort of the problems in the news, maybe they felt like it would be better to have a new face to it. But yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I forgot there was Mirage in between, actually.
where was
Uh,
Mirage set?
Mirage,
Iraq?
the somewhere, Middle East or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. So that was one where I was like, well, you just had one in Egypt, and then was that between Odyssey and Valhalla, or was that
Yes.
after? Okay, okay,
Oh,
yeah,
no, no, I mean, not it was after Val no, it was it was Odyssey, Valhalla, Mirage, and then Shadows. So, it was
yeah.
this one Mirage was the one right before Shadows here.
I still felt like I was like, Egypt is pretty close to the Middle East, and it's pretty deserty. So to me, for that one to me, I was just like, it's a little too close, geographically. Not that Greece is all that much further away, but I was just like, it's a little too close. I feel like they should have gone for something kind of different there, but it is what it is.
So Valhalla was 2020, uh, Mirage was 2023, and then Shadows, just came out. So,
Yeah, they should have
uh
waited. They should have spent another year, away. I think people would have been a lot happier. Like if
The
that,
idea the idea is they have separate teams. They're so big that they have other teams working on it for a long time, but for sure, you can let the series breathe a little bit more. If they didn't, if they weren't held to investors, they wouldn't have had to announce these things as early as they did, and then go through, be dragged through the mud as with all the anytime they did new updates or anything, people disliked it. Then they're like, "Oh, we got to retool it, we got to rework it, we got to push it back." Um, yeah, it's
because
anyway,
because like
it's a problem that bigger corporations have with these,
yeah,
annual.
they got to pump stuff out. I mean, like the old Assassin's Creed used to come out like yearly, right? Wasn't there like a set point at a set time where they were coming out literally every year? And
Probably. Well, I know Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag came out relatively soon after each other.
mm,
It was Assassin's Creed 3, Black Flag, and then there was Unity.
yeah,
They all came out like within like after each other, and maybe even Syndicate followed, and those were like they fell under the Call of Duty mindset of like let's release every year.
yeah.
Um,
I feel like Unity was where it came to a head, where it was like, okay, because it came out a broken, jumbled mess, and there's been some looking back fondly on that game by some people, but like when that game came out, it was like goblin faces melting off of assets and stuff like that. And yeah, it was a laughing stock. It was pretty bad. So I think it's probably
so it's
around.
one of yeah, it came out broken, but at the same time, the actual graphics that were there still hold up now, if you
Yeah.
especially with, really beefy systems, so it was kind of, like, ahead of its time in that sense, and then Syndicate came out, and then Syndicate was the last of the normal run, and then it took a couple years to do Origins,
Okay.
and Origins was kinda like a soft reboot of the series and change of format,
Yeah.
so that was the seemed to be well received by a lot of people, and then they've run that system into the ground. So we'll see.
Here we are. Okay. So next up, there were some court documents that came out in the Sony versus Tencent lawsuit over Horizon Zero Dawn. It's not really exactly Tencent, but basically whoever is copying, or they're saying is copying Horizon Zero Dawn. There's a lawsuit going on, which there's a little bit more news about that, but I was like, I feel like that's kind of played out. So anyway, in the discovery of all this, there's some court documents that have revealed that there is a live action Horizon Zero Dawn movie that's in the works. It has a working script, and it has a release date planned for 2027. And they're planning. It also says, if you read a little further, um, it that they're planning to film in 2026 and release in 2027. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We've been kind of hearing kind of rumblings about this maybe happening for a little while, and I mean I'm pretty excited about it. I would definitely be interested to see Horizon Zero Dawn as a movie.
I don't care, I guess. It's
Okay.
like I feel like you don't need to make our video games into a thing. Not every video game needs to be converted. The Last of Us has proven that it's a bad idea. Horizon has a really good sci-fi story. It's just trying to streamline it, would be like a jumbled mess. Plus, you already have Lance Reddick in the video game. You're not gonna have him in real life. No. Like,
Yeah,
take
yeah. Go
it's
ahead.
a good story. I just it's a good story, but it's like it's too much for a movie. It's a two-part movie. They're gonna make it a trilogy because everything has to be a trilogy nowadays. I really don't care, and it's gonna turn out like Prince of Persia. Dang it!
I think that if I could, I am excited to see what they come up with because Sony's usually pretty good at making movies. If I was going to criticize the decision to make a movie, it would be to say that in the year of our Lord 2025, we can see that video games are better adapted into TV shows, um, into 10-hour, 8-hour, basically long series where you can dump a lot of money and a lot of special effects, but you have enough room to let the story breathe and kind of, because like most games, sure there's a lot of gameplay in there, but most games take between 12 hours, like AAA games take between 12 and 25 hours to play through. Um, and that means there's a lot of story involved. I mean, there's a lot of gameplay, but there's a lot of story that has to connect all that gameplay. And so, to fit that into 2 hours is pretty tough. Even 2.5 is really just a lot. And 3 hours, like, okay, you're not that good of a story to take a chance on. So yeah, I think that would probably be better. But I'm interested to I'm interested to see how it goes because Sony has a long history of making plenty of really good movies, plenty of junkers too, but plenty of really good movies. And kind of a Sony in-house property like this, I think that they'll, probably try to do a good job on. They'll definitely try to do a good job on, but they'll really put their best foot forward on. And anyway, it seems interesting to me. Okay.
All right. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, it does produce well. Once again, I think it might be better as animated. Like get uh,
Yeah.
Sony animations on there instead, but instead of making it live action. That's just my opinion on it, though. All right. Well, and I think that the Tencent property was the Light of Motram or something, Motram, something.
Mataram, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Thanks for doing that. Yeah, yeah. CG. I mean, it is already like basically like a CG movie as it is, but CG would probably lend itself a little bit better, especially to like all the graphics and like shiny dinosaurs and stuff like that. But all right. So next up, two little pieces of news that I actually think are related, and so that's why I wanted to bring them up together. So first of all, Nintendo is reportedly trying to produce 25 million Switch 2 units in the first year. So Switch came out June of this year, and basically this 25 million units produced. This isn't sold. This is like produced and getting on shelves. They're trying to hit that mark. At least that's the way it seems. Before March of 2026. Um, so that's a little bit odd because this is the first time in a long time that they have met and exceeded supply, and I think that I understand why. But so just kind of hold that thought in your head. The other part of this is separately, PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox console are both aiming for 2027 releases. This is claimed by separate reports. So you and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, about when the next consoles would come out, and I said that I thought that it'd be a little bit longer. I was thinking like 2028, release date, or like Christmas 2028, basically holiday 2028 release date, and you were a little bit earlier. I think you did say that 2027 was your guess. Um, so I think that these two stories are related, and I think that they're related because I think that Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox, basically everybody, is expecting for costs to produce consoles to go up, because Nintendo has never really done this, especially not since the Wii. I mean, like the Wii was impossible to find. The Wii U, I guess nobody really wanted, but they still didn't produce that many units of it. The Switch was not impossible to find for very long, but it was pretty hard to find. So for them to produce a ton of Switch 2 units, and be willing to let any of them sit in warehouses or on shelves for very long, which they're going to outsupply the demand, that seemed kind of strange to me. And then kind of the feeling that I get from PlayStation and Xbox, despite being 5 years into that generation, I just feel like it has a lot more runway left, for a 2027 release in terms of tech. But uh, but with Nintendo doing this, and more reports coming out like this, I'm just like wondering about it. And to me, to me they have to be assuming that the cost of producing a console is not going down. So they have to develop it and get it out, across the board, so that they don't have to produce anymore. Even if they do sit on shelves, they don't have to produce anymore, and they can close that cost. So anyway, that's kind of my thinking about this, and I was just wondering what your thoughts were.
Yeah, so you're right about when my prediction was. The the PS3 and PS4 were 7 years apart. They're both in November, and so I was figuring a safe bet would be 2027. November would be 7 years from the previous generation. The PS5 here. That makes sense. The 7 year cycle. Uh, I agree with you that because of the way this cycle turned out, because of COVID and everything, everything got started later. A lot of more games were cross generation. So it really doesn't feel like this generation really started taking off until about like last year. But at the same time, tech is still advancing. It's not a matter of whether or not you can make it last. Like your phone, they want you to buy a new model.
Mhm.
So that's why they don't want to make it last crazy long. They'll leave that for Brazil. And
That's
so
good.
the other thing though, I agree that the costs of producing units are going to go up. I mean, they just recently released a new model or a SKU number or serial number of PlayStation 5 Pro, and the it's just slightly, ever so slightly, lighter and has just barely more efficiency,
Mhm.
energy efficiency. Like it's minuscule, but in theory, it'd be cheaper for them to produce, and yet they're still charging consoles at an all-time premium. Um, so it makes sense, but also it makes sense that if Nintendo's getting ahead of the not only the costs going up, but also there's only so much manufacturing that can be done, and especially if Microsoft and PlayStation are going to be fighting for fabrication time, especially when they're trying to fight for chip production alongside you know all the other competitors. You have Nvidia, you have Apple, AMD, all of them. You couldn't they c- The fabs can only produce so much at a given time. So Nintendo is probably just seeing that, like, hey, we might as well get ahead of this now. It'll be cheaper for us to just to warehouse all these things, securely, and that way we don't have to risk running out at a crucial time, especially when the competition is ready to launch their stuff. They'll still have a steady supply because that's the worst thing to do is um, to run out when the competition is releasing something new. Uh, and if the competition happens to fall short, don't worry, Nintendo will have your back because they'll have some things on shelf. At least that would be the golden opportunity for Nintendo to get fans who are hoping to get the new thing, but they're like, well, we can still get this other thing instead. Um, yeah, there was a small little article, or a snippet of suggesting that Xbox is going to be more powerful but more expensive than the new PlayStation, which it's still too early to tell. I mean, if they might want to try to take back the most powerful concept again because the Xbox One X was more powerful than then PS5 came out with the Pro, and now that's the most powerful. So now Xbox is, like, you can see them trying to take that back uh, and at least get some sort of fan base. But with Xbox and their current vision or the way they've been handling things, who knows? I'm not gonna hold my breath. And you know, uh, I personally would like to have the console generation last just a little bit longer, because I just don't feel like spending an extra,
Dude.
console money. Things are more expensive than ever. Xbox's handheld is a grand for the good one, so just
Yeah, I mean, like, looking at all this console stuff, like, you know, PC gamers just kind of sit back and laugh, and cry a little bit too, because it's like, their world is just they're always going to be paying $1,500 for a new graphics card. At least that's their
they'll
future.
do it. Every generation graphics cards have been getting more and more expensive as well. So
Yeah,
it's yeah. Anyways, we're all losing. Is consumers are losing in the end. Let's just leave it at that.
we're all
All right.
losing. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, just to touch on the possibility of Xbox, trying to be the most powerful. If they are like, if they do go for that, I actually think I would prefer that. Um, if they go for, hey, we are the most powerful. Clearly, we're the most powerful. We make you pay an extra $50 or $100 more, um, to for that, and I would like, let's say, like $100 more for that. But if it was clear and it was like, yeah, they definitely are more powerful, I don't think I would really mind paying the premium. Um, but if I was a regular consumer, an average consumer, um, a casual gamer, if you will, I would definitely be like, yeah, probably not. So it's probably not a great business move for them to do that. Though with the Game Pass stuff, if that they could balance it out, maybe that's something they're looking for. But so it may not be a great business move, but honestly, I hope they do it or somebody does it, because I would like to. I like to have a reason to buy it. I would like to have a reason to buy an Xbox, and I just don't have one right now, but I would like to. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it's PC Game Pass. That's it's for the few titles that you need it for. I don't see there being a reason to be like, you're thinking $100 at most. I'm thinking a minimum of $100 difference for a premium because $50 is not a premium. $50
Yeah.
is not even a controller, an extra controller in the box with
Yeah,
your
that's not going to
console.
buy very much more than
Oh,
like a
you're
little
you're looking
bit of
at
memory.
you're looking at a minimum of $200. So, like, if, like, Sony being the new PlayStation being at, like, 7 or $800, you're looking at, a safe $200 to $300 price jump, in my opinion. So, like, a 700 PlayStation, if we're lucky, probably $800 and probably, like, a grand, if not $1,100. They probably wanna keep a grand for nice imaging, Because if you break a grand, then everyone else would take a step back for a second. But yeah, probably like a grand for the new Xbox. That's my guess, especially since they're already getting people used to sticker shock based off the handheld. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's just my 2 cents. All right, what else you got for the news, buddy?
All right, so we can do these last three pretty quick. Dead Space series creator, I forget his name. You can look it up. He's trying to get EA to greenlight a fourth entry into the Dead Space series. He showed up at Gamescom Asia X Thailand, I think, and he was like saying some stuff about how he can save them money or something like that. He wasn't involved with Dead Space 2 or 3, so and he did the Callisto Protocol, which didn't do particularly well, I don't think, but I could be wrong about that. So far, though, it doesn't seem like EA is particularly very interested. So, yeah. Anyway, I just saw that. Thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, with how, like I said, Callisto Protocol didn't really move the needle a lot, and uh, Dead Space 3 wasn't the best entry. I mean, it was a two-player game, but it was very different. So I don't really see them looking to go back. Like, I don't know, you'd have to rework the story or just do a soft reboot. But uh, I don't. They weren't willing to remake it last. They did the remake, not the reboot. So I don't see them just rebooting it. The series.
Yeah, probably not.
All right.
Next up, Battlefield 6 sells 7 million units in 3 days. So I think they're saying it broke a bunch of records, but I'm not sure about that. So you can check that out if you want. And then also, players are complaining about the game being too bright. Devs say they're going to fix that. So yeah, I guess the for Battlefield 6, the future's so bright, you got to wear shades. Um, anyway, I'll just leave that there. And finally, Quantic Dream, developer of Detroit Become Human and some other games like that, they have revealed their new game, which is a multiplayer, it's a 3v3 strategy action game, they're calling it, called Spellcasters Chronicles. So there's a lot of S's in there. But looks okay. It's a multiplayer game, like I said, and seems like they're going to be kind of trying to make a little money with that one. And so that's important because they're supposed to be working on a little game called Star Wars Eclipse. They mentioned that they are still working on it, but there is no release date in sight for that, or at least no release date announced publicly for that. So yeah, that's the news.
So long as they have this multiplayer game, when you do call outs and you point things out, if you can just point out and yell out Jason, that'd just be great. Um, just as a call, just be like Jason. If you haven't played Heavy Rain, then
Uh,
you should play Heavy Rain. Uh, and it's
Sean,
it's one of yeah,
Sean.
that's the other one at the end. It's during the most tense portion where um you're sitting there trying to save your kid from being locked up and stuff, and you can just randomly spam things in the most completely ruin the moment of tension. Yeah. All right. Once again, I don't believe that they should be doing a multiplayer game. I think they're best doing weird stories, but Detroit really kind of, I think, turned a lot of people off to their formula. I think that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, for me, it was Beyond Two Souls that it really kind of showed the lack of
So so I think
voice.
so I think the Beyond Two Souls was like fool me once. And Detroit was like, okay, yeah, we gotta you gotta be done with this for. But I heard a lot of bad things about it, but I think just sort of the ideas of the story were just not really particularly well carried out. But other aspects were okay. That's what I really remember. But it's funny that the Sean thing, that the Heavy Rain thing came up because I never played through Heavy Rain, and I'd always planned to, but now I probably won't because it got ruined for me. Because I'm not gonna say what it is, but that whole thing, the whole Sean thing, there's there's a video online. I won't say exactly how it goes, but somebody was quoting it, and I was like, "What?" And they said here, and they sent it to me, and it's hilarious. So if you are so inclined, go look that up, and it is it's pretty funny. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually really liked Fahrenheit like that game was really kind of cool for its time, though. Like halfway through, it takes a drastically turn. Like you go from murder mystery to sci-fi, and it just it goes off the rails real quick and real hard. And despite all that, it was still entertaining. But yeah, then Heavy Rain afterwards. It, those guys can make really good looking people, and
Mm,
that's what I could say for it. Heavy Rain was fun except for like this couple the fact that you spam Jason is the son who goes missing in the beginning, and you just spam that all the time, and then yeah, the Sean thing, the glitch at the end, uh, completely ruins any seriousness of the moments. Uh, Beyond Two Souls, uh, literally you can let the controller down for most of the time and it'll auto fumble way to the finish line. Only like I actually never played Detroit,
yeah.
Become Human because I just I think at that time I just checked out. And then for them to do a Star Wars game, I'm like the idea of them doing a Star Wars game could have a lot of potential, but also how many third party companies do Star Wars games? Like Star Wars, even EA, who has all the monies, they don't even release the Star Wars games, you know. So
Yeah, I mean, it could be bad, but I feel like the problem that with those with that development team and the games that they've made is they don't have enough constraints in the writing department. It's like we're gonna write this crazy story, and like it's just like this isn't really very believable. And I guess they can screw that up with Star Wars pretty easily, but I if they have a little bit more oversight and someone, this is the rare time when adult, a suit, an executive in the room being like, this is some crazy bullshit. Stop it. Just make the just make the hero kill the bad guy. Can we just do that? I feel like if they're a little bit reined in toward that side, then we have a chance at a pretty good Star Wars game because they do make technically nice looking games with some interesting mechanics and stuff. So yeah,
yeah, they're just giant quick time events, and that's I think we've grown out of that as a whole. I mean, if for better or worse, that's what the Dark Picture Chronicles are, right? It's just uh, they're just one giant QuickTime event, visual story, and they got that formula down pretty all right. Uh, I just Quantum Dream, just I mean, once again, Indigo Prophecy was like the biggest game of Simon Says, like the little tapping game with the red blue. It's just literally up, down, left, right on the D pads and then and on the face buttons, and you just copy what it does, and you're like, okay. But that game had the neatest premise in the beginning. You just wind up it's Indigo Prophecy in the U.S. Um, but the idea was you wake up in a diner after being in a trance covered in blood and there's a body on the floor and you're like, okay, what do you do? Do you freak out and run? Do you try to clean up the body? Do you hide the body? Like you can literally mop up after yourself. You can go to sit down at the table covered in blood, or do you wash your hands? Like a whole bunch of stuff. And then it's how do you leave? Do you leave right away? Do you make a phone call? Do you take a cab, or do you take a subway? And then you get to play as the police trying to investigate. So you're like, wait a minute, am I supposed to do well to try to find myself? Because I thought I was playing the other person. So it kind of plays with your aspect on that, being like, I want to catch myself, or do I? But then, like I said, that second half of the story completely off the rails, just mind-numbingly so. And it's a great jump the shark moment where you're like, I need a drink or something because this is one of those type of moments. And I think that's what David Cage like. I think he thinks he's more of an auteur than he really
yeah,
is.
yeah.
And that's the big thing is like But the one thing their games are is like incredibly well looking games for their era.
Mm.
You know, like each time they make a new game, like that's a beautiful looking game.
And when Heavy Rain
You know,
came out, it was like, this is wild. This is like so just realistic looking. It's dated as crap now, but back then it was like, gosh dang, what can they like? Look what they can do. Yeah.
so David Cage and Kojima should just put each other's heads up there on each other's asses and make an Ouroboros of like
Just
game,
the
and then you can
auteur
have
eating its tail.
yeah, and then they'll both most definitely make the weirdest, most pretty looking thing ever conceived of. Generations to come, it'll be the new Crisis level of graphics. Yeah, all right. On that note, guys, if you made it this far, we're surprised and we thank you for it. Yeah, it's been another Dead Pixel episode 148. Nick, what are some words of wisdom you have for the people out there?
um. Oh, I had a good one and I forgot it. It had to do with something. You know, make sure to clean out your fridge regularly because otherwise it can smell really bad.
Um, leave a open thing of baking soda in your fridge to help quash those smells.
Mhm.
That also works, especially if you have lots of spices in your fridge, or keep a second fridge for your spices, just so they don't cross contaminate or waft in. Coming from the Korean, a kimchi fridge is necessary, uh, absolutely necessary. So, all right, guys. Until next time, this is ADP. Y'all take it easy.
Bye.